Hi there. Today I want to address the calendar in the playing cards. I notice that this is becoming a more popular topic of interest on the internet, which I'm so excited about. It's part of this time that we're in where people are waking up to things that have been there all along. Truths are coming out and people are seeing things and becoming curious in what's hidden under the surface. And the calendar and the playing cards is one of those things. It's been there for centuries, but nobody really had the eyes to see it or cared, for that matter. It was mentioned by a few scholars, over the last few decades, but nobody did anything with it, and it certainly wasn't a part of the knowledge of popular culture. So we have this deck of 52, a regular playing card deck, and let's take a look at this calendar that's built right in to the deck we all have at home, and then ask a couple of relevant questions about that. So we have a deck of 52 now. 52 doesn't include jokers. Jokers were not included in the original construction of the deck. Jokers were added later in the 1800s. But the original deck, the one that's many centuries old, the oldest example of the 52 card deck is like the late 1100s. They've dated it to now, and it's Islamic, and it had 52 cards, 4 suits, 13 cards in each suit. So we have this structure that has remained over the centuries. So the 52 cards correspond in the calendar to the 52 weeks of the year. It seems kind of obvious when you think about it. Why would they make a deck of 52? Why not 50 or 48? 12 times 4 would be simple, or 50. But 52 is sort of an unusual number, but it connects to this unusual number in the calendar, which is 52 weeks in the year. And that's a natural number in the calendar because it's a natural cycle for the Earth's rotation around the sun. And it takes 52 weeks. And then we have the 4 suits, another major construct in the deck. That 52 card deck is divided evenly between the 4 suits. Just like our year is divided naturally between 4 seasons, equally between 4 seasons. And each of these 4 suits has exactly 13 cards. Ace through king is 13 cards. Just like the 4 seasons, each have exactly 13 weeks. From equinox to solstice is 13 weeks. I never knew that. I never thought about it until I started studying the playing cards, and then it helped connect me. It helped connect me to the natural calendar. Again, all these numbers are part of the natural calendar, the cycles we can observe in nature. So someone took the time to encode that in a living, moving model of time. And let's look a little further, because the calendar correspondences go on. There's nothing in the deck that isn't a part of this organic mechanism. It's really quite striking when you start looking at it. So the 13 cards of each suit, ace through king, appear 4 times within the deck, right? We have 4 aces, 4 twos, 1 time in each suit. Well, that also corresponds to the 13 lunar cycles of the year, each of 4 weeks. And so we have this natural year and this emphasis on the number 13, not the number 12, which is a Gregorian calendar construct. It's not part of a natural observation of any rhythms that we find in nature. It's a man-made construct sanctioned by Pope Gregory. That's why it's called the Gregorian calendar. And I feel like this fear that we've had historically of the number 13, you know, buildings wouldn't have a 13th floor. They'd go from floor 12 to 14 as if trying to keep us from something evil. Well, my feeling is it was actually just keeping us from our power. 13 is a power number, and it's all over the place in nature. And studying the playing deck in this way, in this enlightened way, helps to reconnect us to our natural rhythms that operate within us. We're part of nature too. And so let's keep looking at this card calendar just a little bit further, because it's really fascinating. The correspondences, and all this is outlined, by the way, in my book, The Playing Card Oracle. So you can see it all in there, and you can also see how to use it all. This shouldn't remain just theory. We want to make use of it. It's in here not to just gawk at. It's in here to use. So let's start using it. So 13 cards in a suit. If you add all those numbers together, meaning if you add the value of an ace, which is 1, right, plus the card of the number 2, plus 3, all the way up through the 13th card, which is a king, if you add all those numbers, you get 91. Well, that seems random, doesn't it? 91, that doesn't correlate to anything. Well, it actually does. Again, once you start studying the playing cards, you start reconnecting to the natural calendar. There are 91 days exactly in each of the 4 seasons, just as there are 91 numbers in each of the 4 suits. And just as there are 364 total numbers in a deck, there are 364 total days in a natural lunar year. 364 days in the 52 weeks. So here we have it, a natural timekeeping device for us to make use of. And I outline spreads that work with these rhythms that are encoded in our deck. Now, there is no game, not a single game, that uses a calendar. So it seems a little beyond coincidence that the deck would be a perfect calendar if it were meant for games. But maybe it was meant for something else. The only game I know of that uses a calendar is the game of prediction. And so maybe the deck was actually created for prediction. Maybe it was. It's so perfect. It's so flawless, this model of time that we have. And so I just want to make a quick comment about a different playing card system that uses the calendar. It's been made popular in the last few years by Robert Camp. It's actually an older system than Robert Camp. Edith Randall wrote a book called Your Place in the Cards in the 70s. She introduced that system in her book, but she actually got it from an older source, which was Olney Richmond. It was not too long after the turn of the century, I believe, in the early 1900s. I'd have to look that up again. that only Richmond wrote the book. I think it was called the Mystic Test Pack. I could have these things mixed up, but I just haven't looked at my library for a little while. But he introduced the system that Robert Camp has now made popular, but it uses the calendar and the cards in a different way. People come up to me and they say, "Oh, I know what you're doing. I'm a 4 of diamonds," or, you know, this or that. And that's not what I'm doing in my book, The Playing Card Oracles. The problem I have, honestly, with this system that Camp has made popular is that it overlays the card calendar, and there is a recognition of the calendar and the cards, and so I think that's good, but it overlays this 13-month calendar on top of the Gregorian calendar, on top of the 12-month calendar, to give each day a particular card. And I think that intrinsically sort of negates or sort of disconnects the system, the intent that was put into the cards. How can you overlay this calendar on top of a 12-month calendar consisting of 30 and 31 days that does not reflect anything in nature and come up with anything that is actually really accurate? So I know people get insight out of the Camp system. I think that's great. I don't want to discourage that. But this is why I did not adopt the Camp system. My father and I simply looked at the playing cards and said, how do they want to be used? What is the deck itself dictating? Let's try that. You know, let's get back to the original intention encoded in the cards. The cards were designed as weeks of time. 52 cards are the 52 weeks of the year. The 13 cards in each suit are the 13 weeks of each season. And so that's how we use the deck in the Playing Card Oracles. To me, honestly, the Camp system just doesn't make sense, assigning different days to particular cards when the cards are clearly not days. There are 364 days in a year, not 52. Anyway, that's my commentary on that other system of using the playing cards in a calendar-like fashion. I also believe that you can pose any question to the deck, any situation that's coming up in your life, and relate it to natural timekeeping. So those are the type of spreads that we do in my book. And having the information on how the calendar works in the deck, invent your own spreads, but stay in line with the dictates of the deck itself, the structures that are in the cards. We try to honor those in all the work that we do. So some good beginning ideas are in the Playing Card Oracles. Definitely get that book if you're interested in working with the natural calendar that's in the playing cards. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching.